It was 2:14 a.m. when Michael Turner woke to the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful, but wrong. Not the usual Portland silence, softened by distant rain, humming streetcars, or the low whoosh of wind running along the Willamette River. No. This was the uncomfortable, hollow stillness that settles in a house only when someone is lying. Michael blinked into the dark, disoriented. The digital clock's red numbers glowed faintly across the room. Beside him, the other half of the bed was cold, untouched. His wife, Emily, wasn't home. Again. He sat up slowly, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, listening to the faint creaks of their old craftsman house in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. The floorboards whispered with temperature changes, the walls settling, but nothing muffled the uneasy throb building in his chest. She had said she was working late. But Emily was a private yoga instructor, she didn't have late. Michael swung his legs over the edge of the mattress and exhaled hard. This was the third time this month he had woken to an empty bed. At first he'd convinced himself he was overthinking, reading too much into things after a stressful season at work. But now he felt the truth breathing down his neck. He reached for his phone on the nightstand. No messages. No missed calls. "Where are you, Em?" His thumb hovered over the screen. Should he call? Should he confront her? Should he pretend to sleep when she came in, just to observe her reaction? A rumble of thunder vibrated far above the neighborhood, soft but meaningful, as if the sky itself was clearing its throat. Michael stood and crossed the dim room, moving quietly, careful not to wake the dog downstairs. He peeked through the rain-spattered window. The driveway was empty. Emily's blue Subaru gone. At 2 a.m. His brain supplied explanations. Maybe she stayed with a friend. Maybe she got a late-night call from a client in crisis. Maybe her phone died. But beneath every hopeful theory was the same cold, sharp whisper. "She's cheating on you." He pressed a hand to the windowpane. The glass was freezing. His reflection, a tired man of 38 with unshaven stubble, tense shoulders, and bloodshot eyes, stared back. He hardly recognized himself anymore. The signs had begun in September, subtle enough that he had ignored them at first. Emily's new perfume, one he hadn't bought, one she didn't explain. Her sudden obsession with her appearance before evening yoga sessions. The late nights. The way her phone was always face down now. And the biggest sign. That moment 2 weeks ago when Michael had walked into the kitchen and said softly, "You look beautiful today." And Emily had startled, literally flinched, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Normal wives didn't flinch at compliments. Not wives who were faithful. Michael paced slowly through the dark house, listening, hoping, maybe, to hear the familiar rumble of her car pulling in. But the street stayed empty and wet, the rain pattering in slow sheets across the pavement. He walked into the kitchen, where last week's grocery receipt was still pinned to the fridge. Emily's handwriting in the margins, little reminders and doodles. She still did those small things that made their marriage feel alive, or at least gave the illusion of life. He opened the fridge. Half a bottle of the Pinot Noir they'd planned to drink together stood on the shelf. But when he'd come home, she'd already left. Michael closed the door slowly. A marriage could rot quietly, invisibly. Just like food. From the inside out. And he was finally starting to smell the decay. At 2:41 a.m., the sound finally came. First the distant hum. Then headlights flashing quickly through the living room window. Then the familiar crunch of tires rolling over their gravel driveway. Emily was home. Michael's heart hammered. He didn't rush to the door. Instead, he stayed in the shadows of the hallway as the front lock clicked and the door creaked open. Emily slipped inside, dripping with rain, wearing yoga leggings and a loose, dark green sweater, too elegant for evening sessions. Her hair was messy. Her cheeks flushed. Her breath shallow. Not from rain. From something else. Michael watched silently as she closed the door behind her and leaned against it, eyes closed, exhaling a soft, trembling sigh, the kind people make after doing something they know they shouldn't. Guilt. Clear as day. Emily opened her eyes. And froze. Michael stepped out of the darkness. Her breath hitched. Michael, she whispered, her voice thin and tight. He studied her face. Her trembling lower lip. The way she wrapped her hands around her own arms, almost hugging herself. Where were you? He asked quietly. A second passed. Another. Emily's eyes flashed, not with sadness or fear, but with calculation. She was choosing a lie. Where was I? Emily repeated, her wet lashes blinking too quickly to look natural. Michael waited. People showed the truth in silence more than in words, his father used to say. He never understood it until now. I had a late client, Emily finally said. Her voice sounded, practiced. Too even. At 2 a.m. Michael's tone was soft. Not accusatory, just oddly calm. Yes, she said without taking a breath. She had a panic attack and asked if I could come over. I didn't want to wake you. Panic attack. Yoga. At 2 a.m. Michael swallowed hard. Emily, who was the client? A new one, she replied too fast. You wouldn't know her. Her. Interesting. Where does she live? He pressed. Emily hesitated only half a second. But half a second was too long. Northwest side. Near Burnside. A vague place. A vague client. A vague crisis. Everything too vague, wrapped in the kind of details people add when lying. Michael nodded slowly. Why didn't you text me? My phone died, she said. His eyes drifted to the phone in her hand. Lit. Not dead. Not even low battery, the screen brightness was maxed, notifications glowing. Emily noticed where he was looking and quickly hid the phone behind her hip. The gesture hit him harder than the lie. He inhaled sharply through his nose. I'm going to bed, he said quietly. Michael, don't be like that, please. Her voice trembled, not with fear of hurting him, but fear of him digging deeper. He didn't respond. He just walked upstairs. And Emily didn't follow. Rain hammered Portland relentlessly the next morning, beating against the windows with steady persistence. The clouds hung low and dark, casting the city in a gray mood that matched Michael's insides. He sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at a half-eaten bowl of oatmeal. Emily was in the bathroom, humming softly while getting ready for a mid-morning private session. Another one. Michael rubbed his temples. Something gnawed at him, an instinct, primal and undeniable. He wasn't a jealous man. He wasn't paranoid. He was, if anything, too patient. But he wasn't a fool either. His eyes drifted across the table. Emily's gym bag sat at the end of it, unzipped. Inside, something white peeked out. A shirt. A towel. He didn't mean to snoop. He didn't want to snoop. But snooping wasn't what this was anymore, it was self-defense. He swallowed, reached over, and pulled the bag closer. Inside. A water bottle. A yoga strap. A pair of leggings. A small Ziploc bag with almonds. And at the bottom, shoved beneath everything else. A men's watch. Michael froze. It wasn't his. It wasn't even close to his style. This one was sleek, modern, black metal. Expensive. Not something someone would just drop or forget. He lifted it with trembling fingers. The ticking was quiet but present, like a small heartbeat in his palm. He called out, voice carefully neutral. The humming in the bathroom stopped. A moment later Emily appeared in the doorway, makeup half finished, hair pinned loosely. "What's wrong?" she asked, tone too casual. Michael held up the watch. Her eyes widened. Instantly. Like she'd been stabbed. "Oh," she breathed. It's from a client. He must have left it in my studio yesterday and I was going to return it." Michael stared at her. "A male client," he said softly. "Yes," she answered. "Of course. So what?" Her defensiveness was instant. Sharp. Almost rehearsed. Michael placed the watch on the table slowly, as if setting down evidence in a courtroom. "What's his name?" he asked. "Why does it matter?" Emily snapped, arms crossing. Michael didn't raise his voice. He didn't move at all. He just said, "Because I think you're lying to me." Emily's eyes flickered, fear, anger, guilt, calculation. All in 1 second. Then something inside her hardened. "His name is," she started, then stopped. Michael waited. "He prefers not to share personal details," she finished lamely. "Some clients are private. Private enough to leave $1,000 watch in your bag." Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Michael stood. "I'm going to work," he said quietly. "We'll talk tonight." "Michael, wait." Her voice cracked. "Please. I'm telling you the truth. Don't do this. Don't start doubting me." He paused at the doorway. "Emily," he said softly, without turning around. "You started it." Michael was a project manager for a mid-sized architecture firm downtown. Usually he loved the rhythm of his work, plans, deadlines, meetings, calculations. Predictability. But today he couldn't concentrate. He messed up numbers. Forgot to respond. Dropped his pen twice. "You okay, Turner?" his colleague Brett asked. Michael forced a smile. "Didn't sleep well. Portland weather insomnia or marital insomnia?" Brett joked. Michael froze. The joke felt too accurate. "Just weather," he muttered. But his mind wasn't in the conversation. It was in the bag. The watch. The trembling in Emily's voice. The redness in her cheeks last night. The strange smell on her sweater that wasn't sweat and wasn't perfume, something distinctly masculine and unfamiliar. His stomach twisted. He needed clarity. He needed truth. And part of him already knew he wasn't going to like it. While Michael worked, Emily sat in her car outside a 2-story gray townhouse in northwest Portland. Raindrops covered the windshield like tiny fractured mirrors. Her fingers hovered above her phone screen, hovering over a name she shouldn't have saved. Aaron. She exhaled shakily before typing. "We need to talk. Last night almost got me caught." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Her heart hammered. "Come up," Aaron replied. She grabbed her bag, the same one Michael had looked through, and stepped out into the rain. Inside the townhouse, the air was warm, thick with cologne and familiarity. Aaron stood in the doorway, shirtless, tall, lean, everything Michael wasn't. He smirked faintly. "You're shaking." "I think Michael knows," she whispered. Aaron's expression changed. The smirk faded. Now he was listening. "What happened?" "He found your watch." Aaron ran a hand through his hair. "Damn it. I told him it was a client's," Emily said, pacing. "But he didn't believe me. He looked at me like he sees everything." Aaron stepped closer, grabbing her wrist gently. "You just need to stay calm. He's not stupid, Aaron." "No," Aaron murmured, pulling her into him. "But he's comfortable. Comfortable men don't blow up their marriages easily." Emily pressed her forehead to his chest. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Because I think he might." Erin lifted her chin. Then we'll deal with it. His voice was steady. Too steady. And Emily wasn't sure if that comforted her. Or terrified her. When Michael got home that evening, the house felt different. Not visually, it looked the same. But the energy had shifted. Emily was in the kitchen chopping vegetables, too focused, too choreographed. She looked up when he walked in, giving a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Hey," she said softly. "I thought we could make dinner together, like old times." Old times. Michael hung his coat slowly. Sure. He didn't trust her. She knew he didn't trust her. The air between them felt like a thin sheet of glass, one wrong move, and it would shatter. He washed his hands, stepped beside her, chopped quietly while she stirred sauce with exaggerated care. Every movement looked like an act. Every sigh looked like guilt. Finally Emily broke the silence. "I'm sorry about last night," she said. "I shouldn't have snapped. I was tired. I felt pressured. That's all." Michael didn't answer. "Do you believe me?" she asked. That made him stop chopping. Slowly, deliberately, Michael turned toward her. "I want to," he said honestly. "More than anything." Emily's eyes softened, desperate. But wanting to isn't the same as believing. She swallowed. Her hand tightened around the spoon. "Michael. I love you." He studied her face. Her eyes. Her trembling lower lip. Everything looked perfect on the surface. "And yet. I love you too," he whispered. But under the surface, something inside him recoiled, like touching a flame and realizing the burn hadn't fully set in yet. When Michael got home that evening, the house felt different. Not visually, it looked the same. But the energy had shifted. Emily was in the kitchen chopping vegetables, too focused, too choreographed. She looked up when he walked in, giving a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Hey," she said softly. "I thought we could make dinner together, like old times." Old times. Michael hung his coat slowly. Sure. He didn't trust her. She knew he didn't trust her. The air between them felt like a thin sheet of glass, one wrong move, and it would shatter. He washed his hands, stepped beside her, chopped quietly while she stirred sauce with exaggerated care. Every movement looked like an act. Every sigh looked like guilt. Finally Emily broke the silence. "I'm sorry about last night," she said. "I shouldn't have snapped. I was tired. I felt pressured. That's all." Michael didn't answer. "Do you believe me?" she asked. That made him stop chopping. Slowly, deliberately, Michael turned toward her. "I want to," he said honestly. "More than anything." Emily's eyes softened, desperate. But wanting to isn't the same as believing. She swallowed. Her hand tightened around the spoon. "Michael. I love you." He studied her face. Her eyes. Her trembling lower lip. Everything looked perfect on the surface. "And yet. I love you too," he whispered. But under the surface, something inside him recoiled, like touching a flame and realizing the burn hadn't fully set in yet. Emily descended the stairs in a bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel. She looked calmer, until she saw Michael's face. Her eyes narrowed. "What's wrong?" Michael forced his expression neutral. "Nothing." Her gaze slid to the couch. To the phone. Her jaw tightened, barely. But the tiny twitch was enough. She knew he'd seen something. She wasn't sure what. But she knew. "Did you touch my phone?" she asked. The room felt colder. Michael considered lying, he truly did, but something in him snapped in a way that lies couldn't cover. "I picked it up," he said quietly. It lit up. Emily's face shifted instantly, a complex mix of panic, anger, guilt, calculation. "I can't believe you'd go through my stuff," she whispered. "I didn't," Michael corrected. "It was just, lying there." "And you looked at it," she said sharply. "It was lit," he repeated. Her eyes sharpened. "Did you try to unlock it?" "Emily," Michael said, stepping toward her, "why is there a man on your lock screen?" She froze. Absolutely froze. A deer in headlights. Caught. Exposed. Cornered. "He's just an aesthetic photo," she said. "It's art." "Aesthetic?" Michael echoed. "Of a man. On your phone." "Yes," she snapped. "People use random photos all the time. It doesn't mean anything." "Then why did you hide your phone behind you last night?" he asked quietly. The silence that followed felt loud enough to break the windows. Emily's throat bobbed. "I didn't," she lied. "You did." Emily crossed her arms. "You're being paranoid. I can't even talk to you when you're like this." She started walking upstairs. Michael spoke without raising his voice. "Emily, who is he?" She stopped mid-step. Turned halfway. Her face pale. Her lips parted. Then she said a line that would stay carved in his memory forever. "Don't do this, Michael." Not, "There's no one." Not, "I don't know who you mean." Not, "I love you and only you." Just, "Don't do this." And she walked away. That night, Michael lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of months collapsing onto him. The watch. The scent on her clothes. The late nights. The trembling hands. The man on the lock screen. And the worst part, the absolute worst part. He still loved her. He still wanted to believe her. He still hoped he was wrong. But underneath all that hope was a deep, aching certainty. He wasn't wrong. He was being replaced. Around 3:20 a.m., unable to sleep, Michael sat at his desk and opened his laptop. His hand hovered over the keyboard. He didn't want to become this man. He didn't want to turn into someone who dug through shadows and secrets. But Emily had given him no choice. So he typed. Private Investigator, Portland, Oregon. He stared at the results. A particular agency caught his eye, discreet, professional, specializing in domestic cases. Michael closed his eyes. Took a breath. And whispered. "I'm sorry, Em." Then he clicked. The private investigator's name was Hannah Cole, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, calm, the type who had seen enough broken marriages to recognize one the moment Michael stepped into her office. She listened quietly, took notes, asked precise questions. Names. Dates. Times. Suspicious details. When Michael told her about the men's watch, her eyebrow lifted. When he described Emily's reaction to the lock screen photo, she wrote something down, then underlined it twice. "Give me a week," Hannah said. "We'll know everything." Michael nodded. His hands were cold. The investigator had sent a final page of written details. The man's name. Aaron Whitmore. 38. Tech consultant. Recently divorced. Lives alone. Paid cash at restaurants, traveled often, and, according to neighbors, had a girlfriend who visited several times a week. Girlfriend. Michael stared at the word and felt something inside him fracture. It happened 2 nights later. Emily walked into the living room smiling faintly, holding 2 mugs of chamomile tea. "Let's watch something tonight," she asked softly. Michael looked at her face carefully, the face he had loved for 12 years, the face he once believed he'd grow old with. "Sit down," he said quietly. She paused. "Why?" "Just sit." Emily hesitated but obeyed, lowering herself onto the couch slowly, sensing danger without knowing the form of it. Michael reached for the remote. Opened the folder. Truth. Clicked the first photo. Emily's face drained of color instantly. The second photo. Her breath quickened. The third. Tears pooled in her eyes. Then the video started, her kissing Aaron in the rain, her hands in his hair, her body pressed against his like she had never done with Michael in years. Michael, please, turn it off, please. But he didn't. He watched her fall apart. He watched her hands shake, her lip tremble, her breathing collapse into sobs. When the video ended, the room felt like it was holding its breath. Emily covered her mouth with her hands. Michael. Her voice was cracked. I'm so sorry. When did it start? He asked softly. She sobbed harder. When, he repeated. Not why. Not who. I already know those. When? Emily squeezed her eyes shut. August, she whispered. 4 months ago. 4 months of lies. 4 months of sneaking around. 4 months of telling him she loved him while loving someone else. Michael nodded slowly. And were you ever going to tell me? Emily looked up. The guilt on her face was painfully real. I don't know, she said. I was confused. I still love you. No, Michael said quietly. Don't do that. Don't use that word. Not tonight. She broke completely, sobbing into her hands. Michael, please. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can try. Michael stood, walked to the bookcase, opened a drawer, and pulled out a stack of papers. He placed them on the coffee table. Emily stared, confused at first. Then her face went white. Divorce papers, she whispered, voice cracking. Michael sat across from her. You destroyed something I would have died to protect, he said softly. You chose someone else. Repeatedly. Deliberately. And not just with your body. His voice shook. You gave him the parts of you that were mine. Emily's tears flowed freely, her voice breaking in gasps. Michael, please, don't do this. I'll cut it off with him. I'll do anything. I'll beg if I have to. He shook his head. No. 2 letters. A full stop. The end of them. Emily stared in horror. You're leaving me. You already left me, Michael said. You just forgot to tell me. Emily moved out 3 weeks later. Not because she wanted to, she begged, pleaded, cried, tried to negotiate, tried to seduce, tried to reason. But Michael was done. Something inside him had shattered too deeply to be repaired. On the last day, he watched from the porch as Emily carried her final box to her car. The sky was gray. The rain soft. The world quiet, as if giving space for the ending of something sacred. Emily turned to him, soaked, trembling. Michael, she whispered. If you ever need anything, if you ever. He didn't let her finish. Goodbye, Emily. She closed her eyes. Exhaled painfully. Then got into the car and drove away. Michael stood there alone, rain mixing with the warmth on his cheeks, not quite tears, not quite rain, something in between. He breathed in deeply. A long, heavy breath. Then he went inside, closed the door, and felt something surprising. Relief. Not because the marriage ended. But because the truth was finally out of his house, out of his bed, out of his life. He wasn't healed, not even close. But he was free. And freedom, he realized, was its own kind of revenge.